Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today we are looking at the TAC Fighter. Now, there's two different variants of this, as well as having our D6 stats, and I'm not certain exactly where this is all going here uh, between the two of them and where we end up with the D6 stats here. So let's start off with just the TAC Fighter. For the Roughneck Chronicles, the TAC Fighters are standard fleet attack fighters. They are capable of atmospheric superiority as well as space superiority roles. They are used throughout the bug war primarily to combat the hopper bugs. Now, the history of the TAC fighters are usually armed with air-to-air missiles in its wings and twin Vulcan cannons at the tip of each wing. That's what we get here. We have a nice picture here listed, and that's really what we have on this page. A nice looking animated. Now this is the CG animated variant of this. We also have the F-76 Thunderbolt, which we will bring up, and this is the UFC, the same as what I have right here. All right. Um, so the TAC fighter is the main starfighter slash bomber of the United Citizen Federation fleet. It is a tactical aerospace control fighter. TACs are very commonly used by fleet and tend to be stationed on board many corvette transports. During the Klendathu system campaign, TACs were used almost completely for bombing missions against the arachnid positions on planet surfaces before the mobile infantry was deployed in those or nearby regions. TACs are also gifted or featured quite heavily in the FedNet propaganda during both the First and Second Bug Wars, possibly to encourage excitement and support for the wars. All right, notes here. Despite the fact that the TAC is classified as a fighter, it has only ever been seen on screen in the role of a bomber. It does, however, have two forward facing guns, which means it is indeed also designated as an air combat role. It has primarily used, or it was primarily used as a bomber due to two reasons: one, the lack of true bomber in the fleet, and the Arachnids' lack of any starfighters or aircraft, which they have in the novel universe. Okay, the pictures we have differentiating this from what we had seen before is it's a very angular kind of that nice base wing design. Um, Unfortunately, the idea is kind of escaping me for what that's kind of truly called here. Um, we see this with some of the stealth fighters, the early stealth fighters. There are, our secondary. Wow, I've got a diagram that one of you guys were very nice to send me and all that, and I've copied other ones. And you would think I would remember all of these. Um, our rudders, not our rudders are up here. Our tail fins here, um, having all the controls and all that, they're there and present. This is one that's all kind of dinged up. Here we have a flight of six, flying over and bombing, and of course flying away afterwards. A nice view. We have a pilot and a say bomber or uh, possibly a pilot and gunner. Our rear look on the bird. Here's another one of the models that they used, and another concept art. Very nicely done in a lot of regards, and I'm not going to knock it. This is a nice looking fighter. Um, Outside of the lack of me just not keeping in mind, and I love airplanes, and why I can't remember some of the basic things at time of recording and that always boggles my mind. I really need to print that out and just kind of keep it posted. But anyways, it is a nice, solid functioning wing that should really work in a lot of regards. And we see this in the same design concept being used in BattleTech from back in the 80s. And of course, the original concept was what I think the book was written off in late 70s, early 80s, before it ever became a movie. So it does make sense. A lot of the same design concepts that had kind of floated around in some of these circles or whatever, making it somewhat unique, but somewhat different. Especially when you look at like the anime, we see a lot of designs that are kind of copied in there as well, between one franchise or another. Um, and same thing here. So with that, let's get on over to our D6 stats and go from there. All right, so looking at everything here and seeing if I can bring up my other picture here so I can keep things correct. All right, so as we see the two fighters going, we have the main wing, we have our elevators kind of tucked in here, as well as our rudders in the back, and it has a nice twin engine design, which is very popular or had been very popular until recently, where we start seeing more single engine fighters on aircraft carriers. Uh, Single engine fighters over ground is one thing. We can always parachute, land on the ground, and kind of survive a little easier. When we start talking about single engine fighters out in space, as well as, say, overseas, it might take a couple days for us to find that person. So, with that being the case, it's always kind of nice having a second engine to return someone. Um, you can always try and nurse it back home, hopefully. All right, so looking at our Thunderbolt F-76 TAC fighter, it is Starfighter scale, roughly about 10 meters estimated, has a mass of roughly 10 tons. Kind of lighter than what we see with a lot of our BattleTech stuff, but you know, we don't have tonnage really associated with a lot of the Star Wars, so I can't really say anything on that one. Starfighter piloting and gunnery, we have a crew of one and gunners of one. So that second person is probably going to be our gunner and our bomber. Cargo capacity is going to be 227 kilograms. Our maneuverability is a 2D, a space speed of 11. So this is really up there competing with some of the faster Star Wars. I mean, you think of the TIE Interceptor and all that, uh, competing with them for the speed. Atmospheric wise, we can go about 1,250 kilometers an hour. It does have a hull strength of 2D plus 1. So, again, a little bit on par with, say, like our TIE Interceptor. Um, more likely closer to the TIE IN, but I think the Interceptor. No, actually, I think that was about a 3D. Our TIE IN was 2D. So, all right, our sensor packet here. We can passively scan for 1.5 kilometers with a plus one bonus. We can do an active scan out to 3 kilometers with a plus two bonus. An active search out to 4.5 kilometers with a 1D bonus, and a focus out to 200 meters with a 1D plus 1 bonus. Now we do have twin machine guns. These are the ones on the wingtips, typically listed, but here these are drawn in and we can kind of see where they're notched out for the machine guns. Forward facing Walker scale, fire control is 1D, damage is 3D plus 1. We also have M666C5 heat missiles. These are forward firing. Fire control is 1D, and damage is 4D with 4 missiles on board. Now we also have Fire Strike missiles. These are Walker scale as well. We have uh, six missiles total on board, and they do a damage of 2D plus 1. All right, and the description that we get here is the Thunderbolt is the standard Psycon Tactical Aerospace Control TAC fighter as a dual purpose craft capable of conducting ground support operations and air superiority missions. Thunderbolts were designed for operations in atmosphere, though they can undertake limited space combat if necessary. Armed with an integral rotary cannon, the F-76 can also be fitted with a wide range of munitions and missile launch systems. It is this versatility that makes it a favorite with pilots everywhere. So, with that, really kind of wrapping up our Starship Troopers here. It's been a good run. We will get into something else. If anyone has any suggestions, of course, I'll probably be starting to pick something for our next go through for whatever else. But if you have any suggestions, let me know. If I've got to come up with stats, I will. If it's something that say we have on D6 Holocron, but you just want to be able to hear some goofy guy like me spit it out to you and throw in my own little 2 cents here and there, that's fine too. Um, some of these franchises, we don't have a ton of stuff, but it'll be a small run, and we'll just kind of go through them. Other things, like I said, if I have to come up with stats, I do. It just means a little bit extra work for me, which we're already doing. The Star Wars, I get a little easier time because we have plenty of vehicles for the D6. But like the GI Joe, um, the Star Trek, I'm doing stats for. Uh, I've got to convert stats for our BattleTech. So doing this, however it goes, is just either one extra step or two. So either way, it's fun. It's fun bringing extra franchises into the whole D6 universe. Whether you want to play it solo on its own or combine it with something else. So, um, and as you can kind of see with some of the story that I'm doing, I'm using like Star Trek as the kind of launch pad, and then we can always go into holodeck adventures. You could always do something along that line too. You could always have like a Star Trek, so you can keep going back. Use the same characters, throw them into a fantasy, another sci-fi, or whatever, and just have fun with it. That's all this is really meant for, and going from there. With that being said, thank you so very much for joining me today. It's always wonderful having you here. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you in the next video.